What if someone told you that all the money in the world cannot stop one arrogant sentence from turning a simple ticket into the hardest year of your life? In the next few minutes, this story will walk you through how 4 careless words from a rich girl in Judge Caprio's courtroom shatter her illusion of control and make millions of viewers quietly ask themselves what they would do in her place. Can we speed this up? I have a lunch reservation. The words slice through the quiet of the Providence Municipal Court like a fork dropped in a crystal glass. Alexandra Pennington does not even look up when she says them. Her manicured thumb scrolls her phone, a bracelet on her wrist, catching the flat fluorescent light with little explosions of reflected wealth. For her, this room is just another waiting area between coffee and a social media post, not a place where anything truly dangerous can happen. On the bench, Judge Frank Caprio hears the sentence with the stillness of someone who has listened to thousands of excuses and thinks he has heard them all. He is older than this building feels, silver hair combed back, reading glasses always on the verge of sliding down his nose, a grandfatherly presence wrapped around a spine of granite. He has built a reputation far beyond Providence as the judge who mixes compassion with consequences, the man whose courtroom moments go viral, because they leave people feeling that fairness still exists somewhere. But today, watching Alexandra lean back in her chair with the bored arrogance of someone raised to expect shortcuts, he feels a different charge in the air. "Miss Pennington," he says, voice calm, almost gentle, "do you understand why you are here today?" She sighs, a long, theatrical exhale designed for an audience. Only pas ergo, she lifts her eyes from the screen, moves them slowly up to the bench, then lets them roll with deliberate contempt. The eye roll is not a reflex. It is a performance. "Some ridiculous speeding ticket," she says. "My father's attorney will handle it. I assume we can just pay the fine and move on." The phrase, "move on," hits the benches behind her like a dropped stone in a crowded pool. A cafeteria worker in a faded hospital uniform shifts uncomfortably. A delivery driver who missed half a shift to be here shakes his head. None of them have attorneys who handle things. Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly, folding them with the kind of precision that says he is not stalling for time. He is choosing his next move. His bailiff Marcus straightens a fraction of an inch. The court stenographer glances up for just a second, then prepares to capture every word. "This is not a small matter, Miss Pennington," the judge says. "According to the citation, you were stopped on Riverside Boulevard at approximately mid-afternoon. Do you recall the circumstances?" She pretends to search her memory, but everyone in the room can see the indifference in her shrug. "I drive that road all the time. I was probably just keeping up with traffic." He opens a manila folder on the bench. The file is thicker than a simple traffic ticket has any right to be. "Officer Martinez clocked your vehicle at nearly 3 times the posted speed limit through an active school zone while children were being dismissed for the day. The crosswalks were full, parents and crossing guards were in the street. You were moving fast enough that if anything had gone wrong, there would not have been time to react." For the first time, Alexandra's eyes flicker. It is not remorse, not yet, but a tiny calculation. Maybe this will cost more than last time. "I did not hit anyone," she says. The room inhales as one. It is not the worst thing said in this courtroom, but it might be the most revealing. Her defense is not, "I made a mistake," but "my carelessness did not result in a tragic outcome. So why are we still talking?" Judge Caprio leans forward. "The law is not a scoreboard where you only lose when someone ends up in the hospital, Miss Pennington. But before we talk about the law, I want you to hear something." He reaches beneath the bench and produces a small playback device, the kind the court uses when evidence must be heard aloud. He turns it in his hand so that its presence is obvious to everyone, but his eyes never leave Alexandra's face. "Moments after you were stopped, you had a conversation that was recorded pursuant to department policy," he says. "Before we listen to it, I am going to give you one chance right here, right now, to tell the truth in your own words about that stop." He lets the silence hang. Even the background noise of the courthouse seems to mute itself. Alexandra feels that silence pressing on her, and something in her expression hardens. This is the part where other people crumble, apologize, plead. She chooses the opposite. "Look," she says, tone sharpening, "with all due respect, I really do have somewhere to be. If there is a fine, we will pay it. Can we not turn this into a show? He presses play. The audio is clear, slightly compressed, but unmistakably her. The recording drops the courtroom into the front seat of that afternoon. "Do you have any idea who my father is?" Alexandra's voice snaps from the speaker, pitched higher with anger. "You just made a very serious mistake. By tomorrow you will be out directing traffic at some little elementary school, if you are lucky." On the recording, Officer Martinez answers in a steady, even tone. "Ma'am, I need you to sign the citation. Signing does not mean you admit guilt. It just acknowledges that you received it." "I am not signing anything," the recorded Alexandra spits back. "I am not acknowledging anything, and I am definitely not taking orders from someone who barely makes enough to pay rent." In the courtroom, the real Alexandra shrinks a little in her chair. Her attorney closes his eyes just for a second, as if wishing he could step out of the frame. Judge Caprio stops the playback. No one breathes. "That officer," he says quietly, "is named Linda Martinez. She has worn that uniform for more than a decade, with a record of service this city is proud of. She is also the mother of 3 children." He lifts a photograph from the file, holding it up so that the camera and the gallery can see. A young man in military uniform smiles out at them, eyes bright, posture straight. "This is her eldest," he continues, "Corporal Daniel Martinez. He lost his life while on deployment overseas, serving a country where you think your schedule is more important than a crosswalk. The elementary school you mocked on that recording was renamed in his honor. Every day after her shift, Officer Martinez volunteers there, making sure other people's children cross that road safely." The photograph trembles almost imperceptibly in his hand, not from age, but from the weight of what it represents. Alexandra stares at it with a sick, dawning awareness, as if the image is an accusation she cannot look away from. Around her, the gallery is no longer just annoyed. It is personally offended. Parents see their own kids in the faceless line of students she sped past. People who work 2 jobs hear their own paychecks in the way she weaponized the amount on an officer's salary. "And that," Judge Caprio says, lowering the photo, "is still not the most serious thing in this file." He taps the folder. "Because a few hours after that stop, a phone call came into this court, and that call was recorded too." He looks directly into the nearest camera, then back at Alexandra. "Before we play that," he says, "take a second, wherever you are watching this, and think about what is at stake when someone believes laws are for other people. Then stay right here, because what happens next will change the entire case in less than 3 minutes." There is a small pause, just enough for the words to land. "Before we roll this next recording," his voice adds, a shade more direct, "make sure you are subscribed and hit the like button, because the next 10 minutes are going to be extremely uncomfortable for the defendant, and you do not want to miss where this ends." He nods to the clerk. The clerk presses another button. The second recording begins. The sound that fills the courtroom now is not a roadside argument. It is the polished confidence of a man who has made a career out of smoothing problems for people with last names that open doors. "Gerald Hartwick calling on behalf of the Pennington family," the voice says. On the recording, Hartwick's tone is courteous, almost warm, but underneath lies a clear expectation. This is not an ordinary citizen asking a question. This is someone who expects to be routed directly to solutions. He explains that there has been an unfortunate misunderstanding involving Miss Pennington and a traffic officer. He mentions casually that the Penningtons have long-standing ties to various city projects, that they have been significant supporters of local infrastructure and community initiatives. Then comes the pivot. He suggests that perhaps this citation can be handled administratively. He floats the idea of a substantial donation to the Policemen's Benevolent Association or one of the educational foundations. He phrases it carefully, never using the word that everyone in the courtroom is thinking, but dressing the intent in soft, respectable language. On the bench, Judge Caprio lets the recording run until the moment where Hartwick says, "Judges in Providence are practical people. They understand how the world works." He lifts a hand. The clerk stops the audio. "There is a pattern here," the judge says, and his voice has lost any trace of warmth. "In the last half year, your vehicle has appeared in our system over and over again." He flips through the file, and the narrative reshapes itself into a montage the audience can feel as much as picture. A luxury car angled across the blue lines of a handicapped space at a grocery store, ticket tucked under the wiper, the fine paid within hours by an electronic transfer. A red light camera capturing the same vehicle slipping through an intersection seconds after the light has changed, again and again. Toll invoices arriving late, accumulating penalties, then vanishing after quiet calls and emails marked with the Pennington name. We could spend all afternoon listing every time a small rule bent around your schedule, he says, but the important thing is not each incident. It is the assumption behind them. In one shot, the scene moves out of the courtroom and into a quick series of images that play under his narration. Alexandra's car grazing the edge of a painted crosswalk as a crossing guard yanks a child back by the backpack strap. An exasperated school principal on the phone explaining that traffic is blocked off near dismissal for safety, listening to a cool voice on the other end complain about being delayed. Back in the courtroom, a city IT specialist testifies briefly at the side mic, confirming that emails from the Pennington domain to municipal addresses are flagged in a different color by internal rules, routed to supervisors. The wording is always polite, but the message is clear. Our donations and influence are the context in which you should read our requests. Alexandra sits through this like someone watching security footage of herself from angles she never realized existed. Her earlier eye roll feels distant now, almost childish, compared to the heavy structure of entitlement being laid out. Then, the voices shift. A crossing guard takes the stand, hands trembling a little, not from fear of the courtroom, but from the strength of the memory. She came through that corner so fast, the guard says, that the wind off the car pushed my vest against my chest. I had a line of kids right behind me. If one of them had dropped a pencil or stopped to tie a shoe, we would be telling a very different story. The principal of Daniel Martinez Elementary follows, explaining how many times parents have complained about speeding on that road, how often they have asked for more patrols. The principal recounts the afternoon the Pennington car slid around a temporary barrier with a dismissive wave at a staff member asking it to wait. They looked at us like we were inconveniencing them by protecting the kids, the principal says, like we should plan dismissal around their calendar. Every line adds weight to the emotional scales. This is no longer an abstract clash between rich and working class. It is about concrete near misses, people with faces and names who lived for a few seconds at the mercy of Alexandra's impatience. Judge Caprio lets the witnesses step down. When he speaks again, his voice threads all of the pieces together. 6 months, he says. For 6 months, you have treated this city as a place arranged around you. You park where you like, drive how you like, and then send someone else to tidy up the paperwork. He turns a page and taps a highlighted line. On one occasion, you called the principal yourself, he reminds her. You suggested that perhaps the school could dismiss students a few minutes earlier so that traffic would be lighter for you. When the principal explained that many parents work and cannot leave their jobs early, your response was, then they should plan their lives better. These last words burn in the air like something toxic. Viewers at home know this tone. They have heard versions of it aimed at them in customer service lines, in hospital waiting rooms, on hold with companies that do not care whether their policies hurt real people. In her chair, Alexandra's posture is smaller now. Her attorney leans in, whispers urgently, but she barely seems to hear him. For the first time, the cameras catch not irritation in her eyes, but fear. Up to this point, Judge Caprio says, you may have believed that you were dealing with an inconvenience. A fine. A few points. Something your family's resources could smooth over like every other rough edge you have encountered. He closes the folder, letting his hand rest on it. You are wrong. The word lands like a dropped gavel, heavier than the wooden one by his elbow. This court is referring the attempted influence of these proceedings to the appropriate oversight bodies, he continues. People whose job it is to decide whether your attorney's call and your family's offers cross the line into something much darker than a practical solution. That part is out of my hands now. He leans forward again, voice dropping half a step, every eye in the room following. But what is in my hands, he says, is how this courtroom responds to your belief that you can buy your way through other people's lives without ever truly seeing them. And there is one more thing left before we get there. He does not say what that one more thing is. He does not need to. The way Alexandra's jaw tightens and her fingers curl into her palms tells the audience that for the first time in a long time, she has no idea how the next 5 minutes of her life will unfold. Somewhere between the benches and the cameras, the viewers lean a little closer, sensing that the line she thought she would never cross is already behind her. For a long second after those words, the only sound in the courtroom is the faint buzz of the lights. Alexandra's challenge hangs there between bench and defendant's table, hot and reckless. At the end of the day, Judge, I own you. The gallery does not gasp out loud, but the energy shifts as if every person suddenly leaned forward at the same time. Even through the lens of the cameras, viewers can feel it, the invisible line that other arrogant people have tiptoed up to, but she just marched straight across. Judge Caprio does not slam his gavel or raise his voice. Instead, the corners of his mouth lift into a small, tired smile that has nothing to do with amusement. It is the look of a man who has spent a lifetime balancing empathy and consequence, and has finally arrived at a moment that offers no more room to bend. Let the record reflect, he says quietly, that the defendant has just spoken 4 words that will guide the remainder of this hearing. His tone is so calm that it almost makes the sentence more frightening. There is no heat, only certainty. He nods toward the technician at the side wall. The technician taps a few keys, and the speakers above the benches come to life with a soft hiss. Then, Alexandra hears herself, not in the warm, live acoustics of the room, but flattened and filtered into something colder. But at the end of the day, Judge, I own you, her voice repeats, the consonants a little too crisp, the vowels stretched by processing until they sound like they are echoing down a metal hallway. A second time, slower. I own you. A third time, compressed to a whisper, like a thought she cannot shut off. The technician has pulled the phrase from the live feed and looped it into a short, chilling pattern. It rolls through the courtroom like the voice of a conscience she has never taken the time to cultivate. Turn it off, Alexandra says, but the command comes out thin, more plea than order. Her fingers grip the edge of the table so hard the knuckles whiten, the expensive ring on her hand suddenly feeling heavy and wrong. The phrase plays once more before the judge lifts his hand and the sound cuts to silence. That, he says, is the sentence you have been living by. You walk through this city assuming that the people serving you, stopping you, protecting you, exist inside a system you and your family own. You believe that about Officer Martinez, about the principal of that school, about the clerks who answer phones in this building. And, today, you said it out loud about this court. The cameras find her face. Gone is the bored smirk she walked in with. In its place is something raw, a brittle mix of shock and humiliation. For the first time, she seems to truly register that millions of eyes beyond these walls are going to hear that sentence in her own voice. You told this room that you own me, he continues, but you do not own what happens next. You do not own the time of the people you put at risk on that road. You do not own the grief of a mother who lost her son in uniform. You do not own the fear felt by parents watching cars like yours skim past their children in the crosswalk. His words are not the dramatic bursts of a movie prosecutor. They are slow, deliberate cuts, each one landing on a different part of the story she's been ignoring. Her attorney starts to rise, then thinks better of it when Caprio's gaze shifts toward him for half a heartbeat. Sit, counsel, the judge says, not unkindly but with absolute authority. You have already spoken to this court on the phone. Right now, I'm speaking to Miss Pennington. He takes off his glasses again, holding them lightly in one hand as if putting down a shield. When I was a boy, he says, I shined shoes and washed dishes to help my family. I did not own anybody. I did not even own the chair I sat on at the end of the day. But I watched people walk past me who thought they owned everything they saw. Their money gave them the power to move through the world without looking at the people they brushed aside. He leans in a little closer. They were always the ones shattered most completely when something finally pushed back, he says. They were not prepared for a world that simply said, "No, not this time." Alexandra's chest rises and falls faster now. She blinks hard, as if she can push the prickling behind her eyes back where it came from. This is not how she planned to spend her afternoon. This is not a photo opportunity or a misunderstanding to laugh about later at dinner. In a moment, Caprio goes on, I am going to impose a sentence. It will not be about breaking you for the cameras. It will be about forcing you to stand exactly where you have never had to stand before, in the shoes of the people you treat as scenery. He sets his glasses down, opens the folder to the final page, and everyone in the room straightens in their seats without realizing it. For the record, he says, this court is satisfied that the evidence shows not a single careless day, but a deliberate pattern of indifference to the safety and dignity of others. And based on that pattern, here is what will happen next. The pause that follows is not as long as the 12 seconds of stunned silence after "I own you," but it carries a different weight. This time, Alexandra is not daring him to act. She is bracing herself because for the first time, she has no script to hide behind. First, Judge Caprio says, lifting one finger, you will not drive in this city or anywhere else for the next 12 months. Your license is suspended in full. You may not operate any vehicle registered to you, your family, your company, or anyone acting on your behalf. Every trip you take will depend on someone else's time and patience, the very things you have treated as disposable. Alexandra's mouth opens before she can stop it. A year, she whispers. The idea of waiting, of coordinating, of not being able to simply decide and go, lands on her like a sentence larger than a fine. Second, he continues, you will perform 400 hours of community service within the next calendar year. Half of those hours will be served at Daniel Martinez Elementary School. You will assist staff, support crossing guards, and participate in safety education for the children you once sped past. The other half will be spent at a center that serves veterans and their families. You will work in the kitchen, clean, carry trays, and do whatever tasks are needed. Each description feels surgical, each placement chosen not just to punish, but to expose her to the very lives she has treated as background. Third, he says, you will complete an intensive program on traffic responsibility. This is not an online quiz you can click through while scrolling your phone. You will sit in rooms with people who have lost loved ones because someone believed shaving a few seconds off their drive was more important than a stranger's life. You will listen to survivors who live every day with injuries and grief because a car did not stop when it should have. Alexandra swallows hard. Her imagination does not fill in all the details, but it does enough. Faces around the room blur into the faces in those future meetings, and for the first time, she wonders what it will feel like when someone looks directly at her and asks, "Why did you think your time was worth more than my child's safety?" Fourth, Caprio says, if Officer Martinez and the school's parent council agree, this court will arrange a structured restorative session. You will sit across from the officer you threatened and the parents whose children crossed that street. You will listen to how it felt to watch your car come toward them. You will answer their questions, not as a Pennington, not as a donor, but as a person whose choices put their children in danger. Her attorney shifts in his seat, cautious now, even in his breathing. There is no negotiation table for this part, no carefully worded settlement that can erase those conversations. And fifth, the judge says, his voice softening but never wavering, you will stand in this courtroom again and give a public apology. It will be recorded, just like today. It will be addressed by name to Officer Martinez, to the families of Daniel Martinez Elementary, and to the people of this city. You will not read a statement drafted by your public relations team. You will speak in your own words, about your own understanding, when you have done the work to actually have one. Her composure finally fractures. Tears spill over, quick and hot, streaking the careful makeup she put on this morning without giving a thought to where she would be sitting when it ran. Her shoulders shake, but this is not the delicate crying of someone playing for sympathy. It is messy, unedited, and for the first time, uncalculated. Your Honor, she chokes, please, this will destroy my life. Her voice cracks open on the last word. I did not understand. I did not think. I am begging you for mercy. In many of his most watched moments, this is where Frank Caprio has let compassion wash away penalties for people carrying more burdens than they can bear. He has forgiven tickets for single parents, for veterans struggling to make rent, for grandparents raising children on fixed incomes. But now, the compassion in his eyes does not erase the sentence, it frames it. "Miss Pennington," he says gently, "you speak of this as if I have bricked you into a cell. What I have given you is not a wall, it is a road. It is a path you should have been walking long before you ever saw this courtroom. It is steep and it is uncomfortable, and for once it does not twist itself around your convenience." He looks past her now, out into the gallery, and by extension, through the lens of the cameras. "Justice without mercy becomes cruelty," he says. "Mercy without accountability becomes a joke." Today, this court chooses both. Accountability in the hours you will owe this community, and mercy in the chance to change who you are while you pay them. Then, for the first time in this hearing, the story steps away from the bench and moves toward you. Pause for a moment, wherever you are listening, and imagine yourself in that chair. Not in her clothes, not with her last name, just in the seat of a person who has finally heard the world say, "No, you do not own us." What would you feel if a judge just tied your next year to the people you have treated as background, to the children you brushed past, to the uniform you mocked for its paycheck? Weeks from now, Alexandra will stand at the edge of that very same crosswalk in a bright reflective vest, whistle in hand. She will raise her arm to stop cars that look a lot like the one she used to drive. Small hands will slip into hers as children wait for her signal, trusting a person who once tore through that space without a glance. In a steamy cafeteria at the Veterans Center, she will learn how to carry trays 2 at a time, how to remember that one man likes his coffee black and another takes 3 sugars, how to listen when someone talks about the friend who did not come home. No one there will care how many buildings carry the Pennington name. They will care only whether she shows up on time and does the work. And one day, months later, she will stand again before that bench, cameras rolling, not to argue or roll her eyes, but to say the words she should have reached for at the very beginning. Her apology will not erase what she did. Apologies never do. But the way she speaks, the way she looks at Officer Martinez, at the parents, at the city, will tell a different story than the girl who once laughed about a lunch reservation. You cannot own a judge, a city, or the lives that move through your periphery when you accelerate. The only thing you truly own is your next choice and the courage it takes to face what your last one has cost someone else. The question this story leaves in your hands is simple and uncomfortable. When the moment comes and someone stands in front of you, hurt by your actions, will you recognize your real price before a courtroom has to set it for you? Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.